All right. Thank you so much. It's good to be with the pigeons again. And good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, August 24th. And this is the PALOMA AMA, where we share all that is happening on PALOMA and we update the community. So if you are, we just want to say special welcome to all the PALOMA community members, and of course those visiting from Twitter who may be asking what is up with this cryptocurrency, and we're like, that's the same question we're asking ourselves, and this is the chat where we actually talk about what is happening, and also so I want to say thank you to the Russian community for PALOMA. I want to say thank you to our Turkish community. Come back, come on, guys, don't be like that. We love you. Indonesian community, Vietnamese community, and of course our US-based users, and even some folks from Africa. We have some new Africa community members. That should be good. My name is Tarek Lewis, and I am from Volume, and we're Volume.finance. We're the companies hired by the PALOMA Foundation to bring PALOMA or help deliver the software for PALOMA. And today I have a guest with me. We're going to have Mattia. Mattia, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. And so Mattia is joining me. Mattia is head of engineering at PALOMA. And we're going to talk about what's new in PALOMA. So first of all, we want to give a shout out and thanks to all the non-incentivized validators on the testnet. This is public acknowledgement. We acknowledge that you are spending data center time, data center money, and now even a little bit of ETH to be testers on PALOMA. And so you are not being forgotten. So that's why we always tell you, please do not lose the private key to your Ethereum wallet. I repeat again, please do not lose the private key to your Ethereum wallet. I have no idea why that will be important in the future, but I think it should be important now because you are proving that you're actually committed to this testnet by being on board. And the way we prove that is through your val set updates. And that val set updates is how PALOMA works. So before I talk, I'm rushing to talk about val set updates. Let me talk about the agenda for today. So with my thanks to the current testnet validators or TestNEST validators who are in the nest, and our nest continuously changes. Again, welcome, thank you for being here, and thank you for keeping the network alive. So one thing I'll do is I'll start with the state of PALOMA in this moment. In this moment, as of right now, the PALOMA network is up. Last week we halted, I think about two times in 2 weeks. We halted on testnet because we were shipping updates and we had unexpected behavior in the validator set and in pigeons. So we're going to talk about why those happened, why those halts happened, and that's going to be essentially discussing the upgrades from PALOMA 0.45 to 0.5 to 5.0 to 6.0 to 6.1 and now to 7.0. And we're then, after we talk about what caused those changes and why PALOMA 0.70 exists, we're going to talk about what's coming in PALOMA. What's going to be the new version, Mattia?
Ooh, oh,
that's a breaking change.
That's a question. That's a breaking change. I think the current one is 0.70. So but that's like asking me, what did you do last year? I don't remember. I mean, it's changing so fast. Man.
So, but we're going to go to 0.80 if we're breaking change, right? Good, yeah, good. Yep. So next, so PALOMA this Thursday, which is tomorrow. All right. Okay. So everybody, forgive me. I know. To everybody on this call who's like, dude, you need to give us more heads up. I'm like, yeah, it's like tomorrow. So tomorrow, dear pigeons, we will have a new version of PALOMA, and we're going to talk a little bit of what's coming in the new version. So why don't we get started with the next few minutes talking about what happened, what upgrades we got in 0.50. Okay. So the reason why we had 0.50 upgrade to 0.45 to 0.50 was we were upgrading our ability to verify and check the adding of chains, right? A lot has happened in PALOMA. So okay, let me rewind. What the hell is PALOMA? Okay, so PALOMA is the fastest message blockchain in the crypto ecosystem, the fastest, right? What does PALOMA do? PALOMA sends messages or allows anyone to send messages to any blockchain from the PALOMA chain, and also to control smart contracts that are executing on any other chain. So imagine if you could have a way to control smart contracts that run on Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum virtual machines, Move, Sui, Aptos, and any other Cosmos IDC chain, or even on any other, proof of work chain, Bitcoin proof of work chain that is running a smart contract. You want to be able to send messages from one portal that will get to these chains. That's Paloma. And Paloma gets these messages from the portal, the Paloma portal, to these other chains via pigeons. Pigeons, yes, goddamn pigeons. Pigeons exist everywhere. And what pigeons do in the old days, they would send messages. So like the old analog of messenger pigeons, which is not really efficient way to send messages today. But again, reflective of this is the early days, our pigeons send messages to these other blockchains. And the pigeons insert the message into blockchains. The pigeons spend gas to insert the message. And then the pigeons get rewarded. The pigeons get rewarded with grains. And they get rewarded with denominational cryptocurrency on the target chains for sending the messages. Now, the reason why Paloma is the fastest is because these pigeons are constantly checking what's happening on the target blockchains, and they're constantly looking for new messages to send, because pigeons are very hungry for grain and they want to do a lot of work. They don't want to do a little bit, they want to do a lot. So we have designed, and Paloma is a Cosmos SDK chain, which was meant to bring, this new vision of having the validators act as relayers. So the difference between, Paloma and some other Cosmos IDC chains or Cosmos-based chains, SDK chains, is that usually the relayers are optional, right? So you have relayers in IDC, and anybody can be a relayer. But in Paloma, only validators can be relayers, and validators get slashed if they don't relay the messages. And validators get jailed if they're not monitoring and they're not essentially tracking messages on other chains. So the performance requirement for Paloma pigeons is you must be talking to the other chains, you must be flying over there, monitoring it, and you must be ready to send messages as soon as they are ready to go. And our whole goal is that the validator flock, as it continues to grow in size and grow in reach, will be essentially the fastest way you can send a message between chains in the crypto ecosystem. So that's the goal. So quick introduction to Paloma. All right, so next, let's come back to what were we trying to do with 050. So with 050, on version 050, we are 07, so a lot has changed. One thing we wanted to do was deploy contracts from the pigeons to Ethereum. Now, when we got Paloma up and live, and we were running it, we weren't talking to any of the blockchains. And we said, listen, instead of talking to a testnet, why don't we just go talk straight to Ethereum mainnet? Because we're going to find out what it costs, and we're going to find out how it works. And so the next phase of 050 was to allow us to create a proposal in governance to deploy a Compass EVM, which is our quote unquote our manager contract. So anytime we launch a new chain, there's a manager contract. And that Compass EVM contract is the contract that receives the validator set updates. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick shout out over to Mattia. Mattia, when we think about validator set updates, how would you describe validator set updates as in sort of easy to understand terms?
In easy terms, oh, okay. So basically, we are bringing the validator information and the staking power, their external chain addresses to a target chain, so that from the target chain point of view, we can verify the incoming message. So that's, super simple explanation of what valsets are, supposed to be doing. Right. Basically, they are used, on a target chain to verify that all validators from Paloma have actually signed the message.
Got it. And this is a big key part of Paloma security, because the Paloma security model is a validator set security model, which means that we're saying that the validators, who of course have stake at risk, will send their signatures to the target chain, currently Ethereum, to say, hey, I'm a validator on Paloma, my signature is here, my signature is grouped, my signature is in a bunch of signatures, here's how much stake I have, this is proving that I'm authorized to send a message. Does that sound about right?
Yep. Perfect.
Awesome. So what we wanted to do was to be able to send that message from Paloma via the pigeons into the Ethereum mainnet. And so we created a proposal to upgrade 0.50. And once we upgraded 0.50, we had a small problem in that we had a system halt. And the system halt happened because we were essentially, we didn't have a system halt. We deployed to Ethereum mainnet, but we found that we were not getting, we were having errors on deployment that, of course, were not detected. So the next version of PALOMA, which was 0.60, was meant to add more visibility around logging, around the errors that happens, because of course you're trying to deliver messages to a chain, right? And we can't see the chain, and we don't know if the chain's working, and the pigeons only know that. So, there's a lot of software layers at work here. And if every pigeon is running a remote procedure call, RPC network endpoint into Ethereum, we need to know if they see an error, then PALOMA needs to see the error, or that error needs to be reported. If a transaction goes through, we need to know it was successful. If a transaction fails, we need to know that the transaction failure was also something that happened. So 050 to 060 was to really add more intelligence to pigeons and PALOMA's ability to digest that information and say, great, we get that. Also, what we wanted to do was we noticed that the network could not come to consensus, right, if not enough pigeons were running their pigeon relayer. Okay, so what does that mean? So remember, think about it now. You're a validator in PALOMA, right? You have your PALOMA D running, which is great. You have blocks validating, but you are a messenger as well, because why are you in this business? You don't want to be on any other boring blockchain that just validates blocks. You want to make money, right? You want to generate cash. You want to be paid more money than it costs you to run your data center. So you need to be running your pigeon. But here's the problem. Is your pigeon running? Do you have the right configurations? You don't know. So somebody needs to tell you. So we needed to make sure that PALOMA would tell you. Because if you download the software and you're running Pigeon separately from PALOMA, you don't have a way to verify that you are actually properly integrated or sending messages to PALOMA so that those messages can then create the signature to get over to Ethereum. So in order to cross to Ethereum, we need you to have your Pigeon running. But you don't know that, right? Because you're like, dude, I have this PALOMA software, it's running okay, and I have this Pigeon software. So we did something very ambitious, which is, we're going to find out if it works. We essentially started to couple, and we're going to talk about marriage, but let's talk about coupling first before we talk about marriage. We coupled PALOMA and Pigeon more and more from 05 to 06. We wanted to make sure that Pigeon talked to PALOMA to tell PALOMA about its life, right? We wanted the relayer software to tell PALOMA, hey, I'm alive. Hey, I'm working. Hey, I am monitoring the Ethereum mainnet. Hey, I am able to send messages from the Ethereum mainnet. Hey, I am able to read Ethereum mainnet. Hello, PALOMA. Hello, PALOMA. I am here. I am a pigeon. Coo. So versions from 05 to 06 were meant to do this because, again, we could not deploy a contract on governance if we did not have enough consensus or enough pigeons running the software, right? And even if pigeons were running the software and they don't know what's going wrong, we needed a way to signal to them. So 060, sending pigeons, letting them know, hey, your PALOMA is not running. But even after 060 launched, we found that we had a problem. So the way we would send this message that you're not running your pigeon is that we would jail you. No, we, PALOMA. So if PALOMA network jails you in 06.0 because you were not running your pigeon, this was a way that we could send a message to validators just saying, hey, your pigeon's not currently working really well. You're going to go to jail. You're not going to get slashed, all right? You're not going to lose stake, but you're going to go to jail. So you're going to lose the ability to essentially sign transactions on the PALOMA network. And eventually, after a certain amount of time, you will be unbonded. Your stake will be unbonded from the network. So you want to stay in an active validator set, you need to keep your pigeon alive, right? You need to feed that bird. So that was 06 release. Of course, we had a chain halt. Why? Because as soon as 06 released successfully, 06 released and we had a chain halt, we had an upgrade problem, which put us to 061 because the way we were doing versions needed to change. And so in 061, we did that patch. But after 061, we still had a halt. We had our second chain halt. And thank you to all the pigeons that came online on 0.61. You guys rock. You're awesome. But we had another chain halt. And that chain halt was because pigeons were being jailed. Subsequently, validators were being jailed for not running their pigeon. And as more validators got jailed, there was only one validator left, and essentially the network halted, right? And so we had that problem. And what we found was that the Cosmos SDK was double jailing validators, which was something new. So this was now a Cosmos SDK problem. Oh, wow. Cosmos is double jailing. Yeah, like it double jails and then panics, and then it panics, the network halts. So we had to move to 0.70. And while doing that, 0.70, we added more telemetry and ability for pigeons to say to Paloma, hello, coo, coo, I'm alive. I know we say chirp, chirp. I think we might have to put coo in the chirp, chirp. Okay, but before I go forward, let me pause there. Mattia, did I get everything right? Did I miss anything in our progression from
You
05660?
got it right.
All right. So
Yep.
welcome everybody to 0.70. We have consensus. Woo! And we have val set updates. So 070 was launched last Thursday. Pigeons and pigeon validators upgraded their software. We found out some folks were, having incorrect Cosmos SDK. So again, we encourage folks, please do not use instructions that you get from random sites on the web. Paloma instructions and Paloma downloads are available on our GitHub. If you want your pigeons working, just use the standard Paloma configuration. It will spare you a lot of time, and it will spare you jail time. So now that we have, I think as of yesterday, was it yesterday? Was it Tuesday? Yesterday, Tuesday, we had val set updates, and the day before, Monday, was our first day that Paloma had val set updates. I think it was Sunday and Monday were the first 2 days that we had sufficient pigeons to create consensus, and that those pigeons were able to deliver val set updates. And with that, we suddenly had the 0.1 ETH that those pigeons had committed to spend to join the network suddenly being consumed. And so we want to say thank you to everybody who put up their 0.1 ETH. That was awesome. And then, of course, now we have to refund you. So we've been refunding 0.1 ETH to all validators who have been essentially participating in the val set updates with their pigeons. And that's great news. So if you see 0.1 in your ETH wallet, don't go spend it on your Lambo. Okay, remember Lambos cost more than 0.1 ETH, and you're going to use it again. So that ETH is going to be spent for val set updates. Now, the val set updates have halted in this moment. The val set updates have halted because some validators have been jailed, and most likely because they didn't have, the balance. We set the balance too strict. So we're going to be reducing the balance for validators to 0.05 ETH. And then what we're going to do as volume is going to continue to replenish 0.1 ETH to all validators who are in the val set, so that you are essentially always going to be at 0.15 ETH. And there will always be, you will never be jailed for val sets not having enough ETH. So we're going to make that happen so that we can continue. We have about 200 messages, val set updates missing in the network that have not yet been posted because one of the validators went offline. So we have a new version of Paloma coming tomorrow. Mattia, you want to share a little bit about the new version of Paloma and what we should expect?
Yeah. So this version we call marriage. So why marriage?
So we're done coupling. Now we're gonna get married.
Yeah. Now we are making it official. With ring and everything.
I don't want to have sex. No sex. Just stop. But go ahead.
Oh yeah. Pigeon. So basically, the issue that we were having, as you said, some validators weren't running their pigeons. But with the marriage, Paloma will depend on pigeon running on your machine, and vice versa. A pigeon will depend on Paloma running on your machine as well. Did I got that right?
You got that right. So like marriage,
okay, I got it.
It's like marriage. You can't get away. so okay, no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. Marriage is wonderful. Yes, honey. So what we want to say is that if your pigeon is not configured, before you would be jailed. And as a result, for validators, that's frustrating because they're like, well, I'm jailed, what's happening? Paloma will not start. So Pigeon is now what we call the same level of rights and power as Paloma D, because this is becoming more important to be a relayer. And so, and this is the first time we're doing it in Cosmos. So, this might be sacrilegious in some Cosmos instances, but if you are a validator on Paloma, your Paloma D will not start unless your pigeon is configured properly and it's funded, right? Like we do require it to be funded for the,
Yep.
right?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
what's going to happen is that the job of the Paloma validator and the pigeon is to say, no matter what blockchain pigeon is sending messages, I am here to send messages. My wallets are funded, and I am ready to go. So the validator will, so yes, validators, you will be required to have funding. Now remember, the governance will still decide whether or not a chain is deployed, and for now we are only deploying to Ethereum. But you should expect, if you are in this chat or if you're reading this transcript or listening to this recording, we are going to be deploying to other chains. We got other chains lined. We want governance in TestNEST to go to other chains so we can see what Paloma looks like when it's talking to literally more chains. And that means you should think, wow, where is he going? Well, if you can think of an EVM chain that you like, Paloma wants to be there. Plus, Paloma wants to deliver on that promise that any blockchain in the crypto ecosystem, it can send messages to. Any blockchain, any protocol, anyone. No blockchain will be left behind. So as a result, pigeons are now first-class citizens in the network as Paloma D instances. And your Paloma D instance will not run, it will halt if it is unable to verify that the pigeons are working. What we will continue to do is add more visibility, telemetry, UI errors, messages, so folks can self-heal or fix any of their pigeon issues. Right now, we think those issues will be limited to, one, making sure your RPC endpoints work. Two, making sure your wallets are funded. So far, what we've seen in the testnet on Telegram is that most of these errors, again, if you're using the correct software and using the correct configurations, it will all come down to, is your Ethereum wallet funded? And since volume will subsidize the pigeons for the testnet, no pigeon will ever spend ETH without being refunded on this network for Valset updates. Now, logic calls where we're going to be sending messages to be minting NFTs and doing all sorts of cool stuff will also require cost. We're working on that. We have new features coming out for that. So right now, we just want to make sure that the Valset updates work and the security promise is delivered. Now, keep in mind, right? Like if you look at any other blockchain or any other protocol, usually the validator set is highly controlled. We want this validator set to be permissionless. We want the validator set to be anyone can enter, anyone can join, become a Paloma validator pigeon, then anyone can exit. However, the bar is raised. This is not going to be a network that at mainnet, it's like, oh yeah, I can just fire up a node. You will be required to have balance on a private key on the target chain, right? So the target chain is, and that's any non-Cosmos chain. If you're an IBC chain, I don't think we don't require it because the IBC security is a security layer we're doing, which is kind of like a different version of Gravity. But what we'll be doing is IBC, and IBC won't require those types of security. But yes, if we're going to any non-Cosmos chain, this is what's required. Of course, there are some Cosmos chains which do not have IBC turned on, so they will be requiring Valset updates via the client. This will be something we'll be doing as well. Again, we want to keep the promise. Pigeons are everywhere, right? Pigeons are in New York. Pigeons are in San Francisco. Pigeons are in Paris, Barcelona. They're annoying. They're everywhere. They even shit on you sometimes, but pigeons are everywhere. And we want Paloma to be everywhere a cryptocurrency transaction is happening. All right. So given that we have the marriage, I think also what we're going to be doing is looking at making sure that the Valset updates are secure against what we see today. So currently what you notice is that the Valset updates have halted. If you're on our Telegram, you'll see that we put the Valset updates that are on the Ethereum blockchain. But you'll notice that they haven't been updated in 24 hours. That is because one of our big validators is now offline. They're inactive. And so this new case, this new issue of, well, what happens if a major stakeholder goes offline for any reason? Can the val sets persist? And what we've seen is the val sets have failed. So what we have to do is, this is a whole new problem that we did not expect to see. Right now, again, if you're working in a relayer opt-in world, right, where relayers opt in, you have to beg relayers. You have to please say, please, bro, please, can you relay my messages? Yeah, bro, I got you. Can I relay them next week? Right? In an opt-out world, what we're finding out, where validators have to opt out of the relayer network, then the relayer network can halt. Right? So suddenly now val set updates are not being sent because we're missing the signature of this one big stakeholder. So we now have to go back in and figure out and design. I think one of the things we'll be looking at in the future is, how do we make sure that even if the network, sees the loss of a major signature that has a certain amount of power, how can we still preserve the val set updates to continue, so that the remaining stake can come to consensus? And of course, since currently we still have consensus at we have to make sure that we again are able to come to consensus. Since we still have consensus at Paloma, because blocks are being created, right? We have blocks, so that means the network is coming to consensus. We need to make sure now that the pigeons come to consensus in the loss of a validator that has significant stake on the network. So that's it. We have tons of other stuff coming after 0.80. I think we will create a new, for speed, tomorrow, validators on this should expect we will have a new chain ID. That will be Paloma testnet 9, because we're at testnet 8. So we will update our documentation. The release will happen tomorrow. We will let you birds know. And we're super excited because now, once we have consistent val set updates, then the next exciting part is now sending arbitrary messages at will, anytime, to any other chain. And we have more chains coming. So super excited. Mattia, before we wrap, anything else I'm missing? Anything I forgot?
You mentioned everything. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to all the pigeons. You guys are doing great jobs, helping us great amounts. So yeah, thanks.
And keep your private keys. Before we jump, any questions from the group that is listening so far? Any questions from Telegram? Any questions from Discord? All right. Question going once, question going twice. All right. So lastly, please do not lose your private key for your test net on Paloma. That key is important because that key is proof of work. And if you're working for the val sets, then we hope that you get paid. So keep your private keys, stay on the network, and thank you. We'll see you guys on the next release.